Exactly. All right. I'd like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners meeting is February 17th. And 9 a.m. all commissioners are present. Extra comments or extra papers are on the entryway back door. Looking for comments not on this agenda.
Do the flag salute?
You know, that's something we should really, how about the Pledge of Allegiance? So let's back up for a minute.
Creature of habit.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, the sad thing, if you just read the agenda, you can follow things correctly. So let's go back to comments on this agenda. Nobody's running up. How about approval of agenda?
Don't move. Second.
Been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Approval of minutes from February 3rd, 2026.
I move approval. Second.
It's been moved in second. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. And that brings us to Public Works update. Sir Todd Whitaker.
Commissioners.
Right.
So give you an update of our things we're working on and what's coming up this year. We're trying to make it busy. We are ideal. Paving preservation. We've got some patch paving that we're gonna do as these roads continue to age from the road bond. We've gone through and we've covered everything with chip seal once. Now we're starting in on this second round, which we've never really been in a position to do before. Typically, we'd be back to doing a road bond by now, but the roads are in pretty good shape. But there are places where ride quality is starting to change, and that's just due to ground movement. You know, the hills didn't stop growing just because humans came around. So things are still moving, and so we're gonna get into more patch paving as time goes on, probably a little more crack sealing as well. And so we've got patch paving contracts coming up. And those contracts are already in place with 3 contractors. Same with approaches. We've kind of gone through our standard approaches, what I call, those connections with a state highway that we try to get paved back. You know, gravel road connects to a state highway, we try to get paved back 70 feet, so that our grader doesn't have to stick out on the highway when they're backing up to start. And we've got most of those. Some of those are maybe they need to be upgraded. And then we've got some that are challenging that we actually need to do a design for. We might need to buy some right of way and get things turned around and realign better so that they square up to intersections better. A good example of that is Rogers Road where it touches 51. It ends at not a great angle. And we could improve safety there and traffic flow by just squaring that thing up. And so that's one of those that's on the list. We've got the surveys for all of those done. It's time now to do the design layout and find out whether we're gonna need to acquire right of way. So I expect that those will be next year projects, next year construction projects, but this year design projects. And then we've got an overlay to do this year, not a very large one. It'll be about a mile of Enterprise Road where we've got, significant amount of longitudinal cracking and some ground settlement, stuff like that. So we're gonna do some deep dig outs, some patches on that. And this is the second time that we've had to do this on that particular road since I've been here. So it's just one of those where we've got expansive soils and it's a high maintenance piece of road. The other place we're going to do that is on the back end of AR Ford out in Grand Ron. And when we were out there previously doing paving, we kind of had it in our mind that was going to get a downgrade. But then we never followed through and got it downgraded. So now it's really in tough shape. So we're just going to fix it and then we can make a decision on whether to do a downgrade after that's completed. And then chip sealing, we're gonna get back into the chip seal cycle this year. And so we'll be doing kind of the central east zone, starting at Greenwood and moving north across Highway 22 up into the Oak Grove, Farmer Road area, Orchard Heights, stuff like that. So we've got a couple culverts that we need to do on those roads first, to get those ready. We're going to, not do Rogers Road this year because there's an approach that needs to be reconstructed where Clow Corner gravel connects to Rogers. Want to get that done. I think there's one other problem there. It might have been something down at the railroad tracks or something like that. We want to get those fixed, and then we'll hop back and get that next year during chip seal. Striping and safety improvements. We've got our annual road striping that we typically do. Those proposals will go out in mid-March. And then we have our arts project at Riddle and Clow. And we're currently waiting on a turnkey proposal with the supplier of the equipment to see if they can come get that installed, constructed, or whether we need to go more of a conventional design route on that. But we want to get that thing wrapped up. We also have our signage and safety improvements that still needs to be completed. We've got the striping portion of that done. There's some signage that we need to get completed at the corners where the curve warning signs and chevrons are. So that still needs to be completed. And the striping that we used for that project is called a high build paint. And so it literally sits up a little bit thicker on the road, so it doesn't have much trouble with water standing on it. And then it's got a higher quality bead and even some elements on it. And I want to say that ran us about 2.5 times the price of the regular striping. And so we need to evaluate that and see if we get 2.5 times the longevity out of it. It's really nice. I mean, you can really tell the difference, especially on a rainy night when you get on those roads that have that high build. Their wet weather reflectivity on the center line is significantly higher. And a good example of that is if you were driving, Suver and then turning north on Corvallis, you're going to see the difference right away on those two roads. Corvallis having it, Suver not. So if that works out to be a better product with better reflectivity and it lasts 3 times longer than our existing striping, then long-term it's going to make sense to move to that. We maybe just have to adjust our schedule a little bit. Right now we do 100% of our center line every year, so we may not be able to afford that. Might have to do 50% and alternate the years. Drainage structures and bridges. We've got some culverts that are in pretty tough shape that we need to address. 2 of those we'll be able to get to this year. More than 2. We're going to be able to get the Greenwood and the Orchard Heights one, and then there's one on Coville Road wait a minute, the Coville Road one I'm not sure that we can do. I think that may be a longer one, but the Greenwood and Orchard Heights ones we'll be able to do those this year. And then we have some large culverts that have been identified as failing, and those are going to be a lot more complex because they're fish barriers and they are designated as categorized as a bridge because there's multiple culverts within a certain span together. And so those ones are going to be expensive. All those are on Gage Road. And so we'll be putting together an application for a culvert replacement project through the remaining grants that are out there. I think there's still a year or 2 left of grants for that culvert replacement program. So we'll be submitting that project in hopes that we would get funded for the replacement of those 3. And then there's others. It's going to be, probably a 10-year plan to be focusing on culverts. We'll get those prioritized and identified and put on a schedule for moving forward. Bridge maintenance, we have some back walls that we need to do. One is on Greenwood, one is on Gooseneck, and the work is scheduled for this summer. And that would, we'll have to get that announced that the motors should expect some delays and reroutes, especially on the Greenwood one. That's going to be a tough one because the road's so narrow there and lack of a good place to get a detour bridge in. So we may have to use some techniques that we haven't used in the past to keep one lane open. So. We have a data collection effort that we're receiving proposals on, and this is just kind of looking forward. We've always had our pavement inspections done by Capital Asset Management, and that's more of a manual pavement inspection. And looking forward, there's just some new technologies out there for not just doing a PCI evaluation, but crack mapping, rut mapping, a number of other things that can be done with automated equipment. And so we're going to get some proposals on that, start testing that stuff out, see how it compares with our old methods of doing things. But there's a whole lot of information that you can collect out there. And just if you can think about it, there's something out there to collect it. I'm pretty cautious about those types of efforts because they create a data management responsibility that if you don't maintain that data, then you're out there redoing that effort. And something on that, if you're, in a place where you're going to be repeating that every 5 years, then it may not be a big issue because you're getting 100% of what you need every 5 years. It might not be so much of a data maintenance project, but we're going to proceed cautiously with that and see what how that works out. The other one that we're looking on outsourcing is our traffic counting program. All of our traffic counting tubes are fairly old technology, and the company that made those is basically, they're not completely out of business, but they're not providing any supportive products and stuff anymore. And so moving just away from that technology, rather than gear up and buy a whole bunch of new, we're going, and because we're behind on our traffic counting, we haven't done comprehensive traffic counting in quite a few years. We're going to get a proposal for a company to come in and do all that traffic counting for us to get us up to speed. We'll see how that goes, what the cost is, and how well that competes with us doing it internally. We do have some new equipment that we purchased for traffic counts. It's just not, we haven't purchased a quantity that would allow us to do it comprehensively all over the county. But we can go out and collect here or here for an isolated project if we needed to. We're working on a bridge master plan that is probably 90 to 95% complete. That's being completed by David Evans and Associates. We've seen a preliminary of it. We've seen a draft of it. And so now they're making some final changes to that before it's delivered. And I expect that to be completed by April. We just did a contract extension with them. We asked for a little bit more information, and we asked for some more cost and budgetary analysis to be included in it. So they asked for, another month of time. So we extended that. And vegetation management, we've got RFQs for spring and fall spray programs that will be issued within the next month. Other things going on are equipment procurement, working on getting quotes for a new belly dump and a truck chassis. And then we're trying to make a determination. It's time to replace our gravel trucks. And those are 4 Kenworths with pup trailers. And we need to decide whether we want to replace those with 4 like pieces of equipment or whether we want to make a change with at least one of those. And what we're finding is with all of this rural broadband stuff that goes on, our obstructions that we have to work around with a pup trailer have exploded. And so we've really limited that height, because they can be at 18 feet, per regulation, but when our box is in their air, we're closer to 21. So that's a number of times where you just have to lower your box and create skips and stuff. That belly dump works great in those areas. And so if we think we can keep 2 belly dumps operating, then we may go that route. So we end up with 2 of those vehicles and 3 conventional truck and pups, but we need to do some more work and make that assessment. We know we need one because the one that we have is end of life. And so we're gonna go ahead and pursue that one. We didn't just duplicate it once we get that decision made. Large projects that are involving state highway, Valley Junction, start out west. We've got a meeting scheduled with the tribe later this month to try to find out what page they're on and whether we can be on the same page. Right now, we don't know what page they're on, so we want to find that out. Moving east, intersection of Perrydale and 22, that south leg is going to be realigned. That project is going out to bid with the roundabout at the intersection of 223 and 22. So ODOT's putting that out to bid this spring and expect that to go to construction this year. They are hoping to get a 1-year construction schedule, but that will depend upon utilities. So utilities could cause some delays there that push that into a second year. Bethel Road, I haven't heard anything on Bethel Road in a while, but I believe they put that out for bid and it's going to be constructed this summer as well. The other one that's going on is 2251, and I think that's still in, planning phase perpetually, maybe, for that intersection. The roundabout at 99 and Clow seems to be working fairly well. I see, every once in a while I'll see a pile of plastic and glass. It seems like there was a fender bender, but I haven't heard of any kind of injury related crashes or anything significant there. So that's a good sign. Stapleton and 99 continues to be a concern as more development goes in. I saw another proposal for another development, this one in Monmouth, that's going to be on the south end connecting to Helmick Road. And so that's, again, going to generate more trips into that intersection and keep, decreasing the safety of that until we get a significant improvement there. So that's all I can think of at the time. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so how many weight limited bridges are on your radar right now that you plan to make changes to?
The first one I can think of is Helmick Road. That got funded with a local bridge program rehab funds, but it has been stalled. And it sounds like that might have been a casualty of ODOT's financial crisis that they created in 2025. So I did see some movement on it in the last month. It makes me indicate that we might get some kind of an agreement signed so that Marion County can proceed on that one.
Can you refresh our memory on what it's weight limited to, where it was, what it's limited to now?
I think it is 14 tons. I might be wrong. It might be 28 tons. There's always that factor too, but anyhow, very limited, very limited.
That's the only one though that you can think of?
That's the only significant one. There may be some others. I can think of one up by Willamina. My mind's escaping me on the name of the road, but it was such a minor road that we said, just go ahead and weight limit it. There's a way around. So one of those like that where we can, but generally, if we can get to give us adequate warning that a bridge is going to be weight limited, we'll find out why and we'll jump in and fix it while we can. Obviously, we've got, Old Military, it's got a weight limit on it, but it's a bridge to one house and there's right of way in a different direction. So, that one, we're just not gonna, doesn't seem wise to invest a lot of money in that.
Does it get posted though, so that,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's
fire
posted.
services, for example,
Yeah,
don't,
I think that one's
Blunder it.
posted at 7 tons or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of any others that are on my radar that have been posted that we need to.
general information. You talked about the spray program in the recent past, we've had problems with, we just don't have vendors for that. Do you have a sense that we have a vendor or two that may apply to?
Yes.
Good. Then you've seen their work and have a sense of.
We contracted with two last year.
Okay.
And, it was their first year with us. There's some things that we say, hey, we want to make sure that, we dot the i's and cross the t's a little bit. I think they missed a road here or there, and you could, I mean, it was kind of interesting that from a research standpoint, that the road that they missed was Rogers Road. And when you drove Rogers Road, now remember, last year, in 2024, our contractor failed us and we didn't get anything taken care of. And so you see then, so Rogers Road didn't get taken care of last year. And you looked at what it looks like after 2 years and you go, that's why we do what we do. Because the amount of stuff growing up in those shoulders was pretty extensive. So it was, we don't like to see that, but it's a good illustration that there's value in doing the vegetation management program.
And do these, again, I know these are all probably part of contracts and qualifications, but are these vendors likely direct inject applicators rather than tank mix applicators?
The one for sure is a direct inject. The other was tank mix last year, but was supposed to be getting a direct inject truck set up for this year. I haven't heard confirmation of that.
Yeah. And I asked that question because spray programs, as we all know, are always under attack. And the better technology we can qualify these guys for, the more precise the spraying is. And I would say we could argue that we're using the highest technology available today.
Yeah, for sure. And the work that we gave the tank mix contractor was the work that required the most predictable chemical usage because you were constant on
But on gravel,
all the time. There was no spot application to it. And so it's a lot easier to predict in that case where you're going to run out and mix accordingly.
Yep.
The fall one, which was more spotty, that was a direct inject contractor.
Thank you. And then last, my favorite subject, a video trailer. So are we making any progress on using up old technology and coming up with a product, a tool that we can use to monitor intersections?
We're making progress, but not as fast as you or I would like.
Okay.
I'll tell you that. But I can tell you what the status is. The surveillance trailer that belonged to the sheriff's department, we're trying to get that repurposed to use for this application. A bunch of the equipment is obsolete and no longer supported on that. And in addition to that, it had been sitting for long enough that all the batteries went dead on it. So said, let's just get it going to where it's got power. I'm not gonna go replace all the batteries in this until we know what it's gonna cost to refurbish the whole thing. So we've got it at that state and we've notified the contractor. Dean Bender has been coordinating this, notified the contractor that that's ready for them to dial into and do an assessment on. And as far as I know, the ball's in their court. We're waiting to hear from them on what their recommendation is to return that back into operational status and what that would cost.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very anxious in the remainder of my term to be able to see some video of the roundabout itself. And again, I concur with your assessment of where we are in the roundabout, but I'm becoming more interested in watching intersections like Stapleton and now Parker Road, which was a major incident over this last weekend. Anytime I see a rescue unit go and then multiple ambulances, then again, Parker Road 99W is a really ugly intersection.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get them as many times as Stapleton does just because of the lower cross traffic. But when it gets them really bad.
Yeah, I'll look into that, see what they're, I missed the one this weekend. What happened there?
Well, I don't know the
any
details. I just know
Yeah.
the call. But when I see a rescue and two ambulances, my experience is it's a bad crash.
Yeah.
So that's all
Yeah,
I
so
know.
I'll look into that and also look into the crash history there because, and see whether that one is on the SPIS list.
Well,
Because,
if not, it will be. I mean, what's happening right now is that people are avoiding Stapleton. They're going farther south on Helmet to use Parker Road.
right,
So they're not doing that on the east side of the highway as much because they eventually may run into some gravel, but
right.
but on the west side, you know, Monmouth traffic using Helmet Road and avoiding Stapleton because of its scariness and going to Parker, I think will show us that those numbers will continue to increase there. So anyhow.
Yep.
Just something to do to watch it, see what the behaviors are, what ODOT does and doesn't do as far as keeping the intersection clean back. That's also been a huge issue there. I quite frankly appreciate that we have less brush and problems at Stapleton and 99W. It's a lot cleaner intersection right now with that. It seems cleaner because all those poplar trees got wiped out. I don't know that it has anything to do with anything, but it's just a lot more visibility out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I have. Thanks.
Just a couple of questions, Todd. That data concern for the road inspection technology, is it that we need to pay for storage? Do we own that data?
And storage isn't an issue.
Okay.
It's when I was getting into that discussion, it probably didn't apply to that one because that's probably going to be your one and done type of data. That there it is, that's what you've got, and that's what you're using until we go and replace it. The kind of data management that I'm talking about is, for example, our culvert system. I mentioned that we've got a bunch of culverts, backlog culverts that we need to get. Those got missed because our data management system wasn't working. And so we weren't getting notified of certain conditions, for several years where we could have, been more proactively replacing those. And so it's one of those where you constantly need to be working on that, where every single time the crew goes out and makes a modification to a culvert, the paperwork comes back and the database gets updated so you know your current status of that culvert. And so that's the data management side of things that I think we have to be cautious about when we're developing these new shiny new tools, that we make sure that we can maintain that in the background so that it's going to be dependable.
Yeah. Also want to thank you for getting those Chevron signs up at Bethel and those curves by the church. Appreciate that.
Sure.
And any updates on, I haven't been up there lately, but the city speed bump in Fall City, going out west. Have you
I
seen
know-
any other complaints? I know there was a spill.
There was an incident where a dump truck blew out his tailgate going over those speed bumps and lost his load on the road there. I believe that somebody went up, I would imagine the city went up and ground them down so they're less severe now.
Mhm.
So other than that,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just City of Fall City issue.
I know it is, but I know we have a lot of, timber traffic and other.
Yeah, we're not getting any more complaints about it.
Okay, and I know that they were connecting with city manager there, so hopefully there's some solutions or folks are getting used to anticipating those speed bumps.
So,
Okay. I think that's all I have, and I'm glad to hear the master plan was fairly good for the first draft. Greg had shared that with us, so I'm excited to see the final
yeah.
kind of prioritization list. Yeah, thanks.
So you mentioned a couple of bonds. When was the last year that we bonded? And then
2006.
2006, 20 years ago.
And the prior bond was 86. We anticipated doing them every 20 years, but there's been a modification in funding for public works and the gas tax and the revenues that were generated as a result of that. Probably move that option further out. Obviously, if there's a change in gas tax and it increases like the transportation plan had anticipated, you probably wouldn't ever go out for a road bond. You might go out for some infrastructure like a bridge, a bond for bridges and that, but you probably, instead of being 20 years apart, they may now be 30 years apart, somewhere in there. In 86, I think it was a $7.5 million road bond. In 2006, it was a $20 million road bond. Miles in 86 were about 142. Miles in 2006 was about 147. Each time, I think the county in 86 promised 80 miles. In 2006, we promised 120 miles. So we were able to exceed projections that we delivered for the bond itself. And obviously you've seen pavement condition results, and our roads don't warrant. 86 was a necessary reconstruction of roads. 2006 was more of a proactive road bond to not let them deteriorate to the level of dig outs and those kind of things, which cost a lot more, like replacing your roof. If you do it before it's damaging everything on the inside, it's a little cheaper. Right now, it'd be hard to justify even a proactive road bond, especially as you see everyone else's road conditions the way they are. And yeah, I wouldn't want to go out and try to sell one. It would be a tough sell. So that's your road bond history.
There's chatter to sweep that 30-20 county city split of the gas tax for state needs. Hopefully that doesn't manifest in the next biennium, but that could change our calculus for locally funded bond. But I don't want to doom project into the future.
No, it's not doom projecting when you have a representative who says it publicly, that he works for the state, not for the locals, and that he would be happy to modify the 50-30-20 plan. So I don't mind putting that on the record. He's wrong.
I also wouldn't mind, Jackson County does, I've talked with cities too who are obviously concerned that would bankrupt cities if they did not receive that 20%. Just to talk about our impacts here in Polk County with our
They'll just put it on your water bill.
Well, we all need it. And the average driver doesn't,
For counties.
average driver does not care which road they're driving on.
There are probably some counties somewhere with a lot of timber revenue sitting in an account that could, withstand that for a while,
Jackson.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
Douglas,
not Polk.
Not Polk.
Douglas.
So there's been a lot of talks about a one-time carve out to not do the 50-30-20.
You better never say yes.
I'm 100% with you. We need to protect that. And I just want to commend Todd, you and your staff for that $20 million bond was a huge investment, and our roads are amazing. And I wish ODOT could come and just watch what you and your team do on your maintenance and preservation plans, because you're so proactive. Unlike ODOT, where there's a crack in the asphalt, you seal it, you patch it, and you don't let that water get underneath and undermine your base rock, where they would look at it, how it's cracked, and then becomes a major project rather than just repair it. So the proactive saved the county a ton of money and our taxpayers a lot. But you also mentioned the ARCH project, a Riddle and Clow. Can you expand? What do you have planned there, or what are the considerations?
Yeah, so that's a through route activated warning system that's going to go in. So as vehicles approach from the north and the south, the stop signs on Riddle Road, there will be advanced warning signs on Clow Corner that flash alternating yellow lights warning of cars entering the roadway. So it's the same thing that they put out on 99 in Clow, just as an interim safety improvement before they got the roundabout completed. And I was kind of skeptical of it, but it seemed to work really well.
Do you have it on Perrydale Road too?
Yeah, they have one at Perrydale Road that they installed. That one does not seem to have reduced the frequency.
Yep.
The one at Clow seemed to have really helped. So I don't know why one worked better than the other. I don't know that. The other thing that's concerning me about that intersection is just the volume of traffic that is happening there. And, as development continues, in that area of Monmouth, right now they're looking at an urban growth land swap that would put some more bring more urban growth area into their developable lands out there off of Mistletoe. My concern there is that that's going to have traffic impacts, that some of those vehicles that are headed to Salem are going to want to go north They're gonna go to Riddle and Clow because they've got the roundabout to get them into 99 without any delay, like the stoplight at Hoffman and 99. So we'll get additional traffic going that way. And, right now during peak hour, I see cars queued up there, 7 or 8, 9 cars deep. And so we're getting to the point where during our peak hour traffic volumes, the capacity of that intersection is, I haven't done any analysis on it, but it looks like the capacity is being reached. And so long-term, there's going to have to be a capacity improvement there that we're gonna have to think about.
And then just for the record, on the 99 Bethel project, their goal is to have that done in 3 months as school is out. They'll start right around the 1st of June and they hope to have it done by the end of August. So in between the school year to not affect students going to school because it's just one of the main routes. So that's their plan on that one there. Hopefully we'll see if they can get it done. Other than that, any other? Okay.
So since Mr. Hanson brought it up, and it's always an interest to me, because we sit here and talk about how good we are, which is a good thing, we are. But, and then we talk about how challenging we see some other neighboring counties' roads. Is there such a thing in Oregon as a rating or an analysis of quality of roads, ride quality, PCI, all those kind of things, bridges for Oregon's 36 counties?
Yes.
And is it generally meant for engineering leader types in public works?
So there's,
Or does it have an executive assessment that executive levels can understand?
there's two ways to answer that. So historically, counties like Polk, we do our pavement condition index inspections every 5 years. Some counties probably weren't doing that, others were. After the passage of HB 2017, there was a requirement to, I think it's every 2 years, you have to submit to the state a report on your condition of your roads and your conditions of the bridges. And so that's every 2 years. However, the rating that you give is not prescribed by any designation. So we follow, what's called ASTM, I think it's D6433, which is a very prescribed method for evaluating your PCI. But I think you can comply with HB 2017 using methods that aren't standardized. And then I don't know how transparent the state is about publishing that information. I think that there's institutionally some resistance to that because we don't want to embarrass somebody. And I'm not in support of that.
Good, me either.
I think if I were doing a bad job, I should be embarrassed.
Imagine the chair won't shut you off if you want to name names.
Pardon me?
I said, imagine the chair won't shut you down if you want to name names. I'm kidding.
So
Yeah, thank you.
I think you can
But still, what you're telling me is that there's no way for the public or reporters to know what the comparisons are, honestly, in a true evaluation of each county's quality of roads, or not just PCI, but ride quality, et cetera, along with something that says, here's how much money they spend, here's how many miles of roads. So that, again, we have a pretty good analysis internally of what we spend because it's been a big focus over the years and we've spent a lot of money on bonds. But we go to neighboring counties or anywhere around the state and wonder, where does their money go?
Yeah, so I think there might be some statewide dashboard or whatever where the results of that information are available. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I don't recall whether it does or not. To me, it's more the quality of what goes into that. And if you can just drive down your roads and say, I think these are all good, so report them good, it shouldn't be that. I'd like to see a more standardized approach. I mean, without unduly burdening some of the counties that would, that struggle financially.
Yeah.
So in our District 6 meetings, Oasis provided some of that in a dashboard type activity for Marion, Yamhill, and Polk. I think Polk's road rating was, and I don't know where they got the number, was in the 90s, low 90s. Yamhill and Marion were 64 and 67. And then they gave amount of revenue they get and miles of road that they had. Yamhill and Polk roughly had the same amount of money per mile. And Marion County had twice as much as Yamhill and Polk.
So I asked this question, and so again, I know you may not have as much activity in Oasis as others in your, your peers, but to the point about fighting for the 50, 30, 20, there are some of us who have, I think, every justifiable reason to fight for that, and some of us maybe don't. And, as we go forward in this struggle, I want to make certain that we're all, very clear-eyed about who is and who isn't. And again, we need to help encourage our peers that maybe aren't quite up to snuff to get up to snuff as far as fighting for that money. Because again, I do worry that there are larger counties that get a larger proportion of that money that maybe would be fine without it. I don't know. But I have no way of really understanding any of that other than our own internal rhetoric that we use. And again, we pat ourselves on the back a lot for good reason. We have, again, we've gotten awards. We've gotten a lot of justification for that, self-congratulations, but I think every county does it to some degree. And I'm just not sure. I mean, we can't count on ODOT to evaluate us, and they certainly wouldn't want us to do it to them because it would not be congratulatory. But, again, this 50, 30, 20 thing has become such a heated issue, and I'm just not sure who's telling our story to the legislature because you have to have the warts with all the good stuff. And so I remember that now that brief Oasis report in the district
meeting
talked about it. So when you think of it sometime, can you ask those folks that you work with in the engineering levels at Oasis if there is such a report that we can see that gives us an evaluation of counties across the state, it would be interesting to see.
I would guess that there is.
Yeah.
My question was what's behind it?
Yeah. Who did the work?
Was this a windshield survey or was this some kind of a standardized evaluation?
I concur. And then finally, this is our favorite subject, bikes. So do you have a sense that we are at level play now with our bike permit program and that everybody is in the same lane, understands what they're supposed to do for their bike activities, special events as we go forward now heading into spring? Or do we still have some, sorry, that was a loaded question, I guess. So I can see by your smiling face that maybe we're not, but I think it's important that we know that there still some potential that we're going to have some tank traps out there with a vendor or two.
There are likely still some events that aren't following the process.
Okay.
Sorry to interject, but I also see successful applications come through our inboxes with the traffic control plan. I understand that the cost burden of a certified traffic control plan, depending, isn't outlandishly cost prohibitive once you sort of establish that relationship.
When you evaluate the cost of preparing that plan, I mean, yes, it's a cost. And you look at it and say that's a real cost, and not just the preparation of the plan, but the implementation of the plan. That's where the bigger cost is going to be. And so I think that's been the pushback. So I think the events that we've got are established events with, known routes, and they know what they're going to do, and it's becoming more standardized each year. Don't seem to be a problem. It seems to be the new ones or, something that's a little out of the ordinary. We had the marathon a couple years ago, which, we kind of got a black eye over, but really I thought that was undeserved. I mean, we have to stand up for road safety. We don't want have a special event out there and have people getting injured or killed on it. And we got blamed for the high cost of traffic control on that job. But the biggest problem with that was the traffic control professional that was hired to create the plan was kind of over the top probably. It was a complicated event where you had runners in both lanes going opposite directions, you know, on a rural 55-mile-an-hour highway, or county road. And that's a major collector county road. So it's not a low volume traffic road. And they were doing that during a mint harvest that was on that road. And so there's all kinds of factors there that the organizers of those events don't take into account, but we have to. So, yeah, we had to toe the line on that one, and I think we got dinged up a bit on that, and, you know, some word that they won't come back, but
Okay, thank you. So, yes, stay tuned. Potentially, we'll be hearing from people.
potentially,
When I see successful applications going through, I see the system working for most.
correct.
And we might have a higher level of caution and, you know, ensuring folks are safe than maybe some neighboring counties, but if I'm saying no successful applications, then I would raise questions about our process, but I don't see any need for that at this point.
Yeah, we probably have, I would guess, around 8 or 9 a year.
Just had a run at Xena.
Yeah, that's been an annual one every year since I've been here, I'm pretty sure.
So there's some best practices folks could follow to lower
Yeah.
costs and look at routes that make sense.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I think they had a record year of runners. There was a lot of runners this year on Xena. So Todd, I know at AOC, or we've been recognized as having the best roads in the county, where you got the highest, you and your team received the highest score of ever given through that. What was that award? It's given by,
it wasn't a formal award. It was just a recognition by the company, Capital Asset Management, that goes around and does all these evaluations. Just basically what they were talking about the condition of the county road systems across the state. They mentioned that Polk County had the highest pavement condition index rating of any county in the state, and also the highest pavement condition index ever recorded of any county in the state. I think that was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, those are good to hear. And I mean, we like to get the praise. But honestly, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody. If I were at the other end of the scale and everybody was just not mentioning it, I don't think that would serve the taxpayers.
correct.
I think to Commissioner Pope's point, as a way to work with ODOT or the legislature, standardizing those methodologies for evaluation would be a good idea. And AOC's efforts to kind of analyze different county revenue challenges and, you know, systems, it might be good to say, hey, there might be some reasons why, you know, a Morrow County or another county is struggling.
Right. Or to work in more objectivity into it, you know, because it's not just counties that have to report that, it's cities that have to report that.
Mhm.
You know, when you take a city like Falls City, they would have to go hire somebody to come in and do that. It's just not financially possible. But is there a way to say, okay, well, we're not going to go evaluate the PCI, let's say, but we are going to get that experienced eye to come in here. We're not going to drive our own roads and say they're great. We're going to have an experienced, objective person come through and say, this is what I assess your roads at, and I can do it at that reduced cost, you know, to help cities and counties that couldn't afford, you know, to do the full meal deal.
You could limit population by whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how to work that language
No,
out to make that
I haven't figured it out
standardization,
yet.
but when it comes to bridges though, It doesn't matter what your financial situation is. ODOT contracts for the NBI inspectors to come in and they inspect your bridge. They don't give you the choice of doing that. So,
But at least we know it's one rating across the state.
correct.
Great job. Any other questions?
No, appreciate everything and appreciate your crews too for taking care of the things nobody else wants to take care of. When there's dumps on the roads and things like that, I hope our, you know, our patrol partners and others are partners in those efforts to keep our roads clear of those debris and work with you. Appreciate
Appreciate
that.
that.
Thank you, John. Do we have any non-listed items?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, we're adjourned.
Popular topic.